You are diligently saving for years. You are skipping the daily lattes, you are hitting your employer match, and you are doing exactly what every financial guru tells you to do. But you log into your brokerage account and it feels like your balance is literally stuck in quicksand. You are staring at the numbers and wondering, is this actually a scam? Because you could be spending this cash on a much better life right now. Here's the brutal truth. You are not doing it wrong. You are just trapped in the worst possible stage of wealth building. You are in the valley of boredom. The exit door looks incredibly tempting right now, but if you quit, you are going to lose the golden ticket. Think of building wealth like hand-digging a massive underground foundation through solid bedrock. At first, you're swinging the pickaxe with everything you've got, diligently sacrificing a massive chunk of your paycheck for 5, 6, maybe 7 years. The dirt barely moves. The progress looks like a flat line. It is incredibly agonizing, and your muscles are screaming for you to stop. But eventually, the foundation is poured, the steel beams are delivered, and suddenly that exact same project is rising floor by floor into the sky, doubling and tripling its height with terrifying speed. You desperately want to own the penthouse when it reaches the clouds. But to get the keys, you have to survive the digging phase. And most people do not survive it. How do we know they do not survive it? Because the receipts are hiding right in plain sight. According to national retirement data, the average continuous 401k balance sits right around $146,000. That's a record high, and it's not pocket change. But let's be honest, it is hardly buy a beach house money. Now, compare that to the consistent saver, the person who simply refused to drop the shovel and stayed invested in their plan for 5 continuous years. Their average balance explodes to over $304,000. Why is there such a massive gap? Because the average investor treats their retirement fund like a glorified savings account. They get bored. They pause contributions to buy a new truck, or they pull cash out to fund a kitchen remodel because the growth feels entirely too slow. They look at the first few years of compound interest, see a flat line, and pull the plug right as the concrete is finally ready to set. We're perfectly wired to fail at this. We live in a society that expects success to look like a Hollywood montage. A quick burst of effort, some upbeat music, and suddenly you are wealthy. But retirement planning is the exact opposite. You are handing over thousands of dollars of your hard-earned paycheck to the market, and in return, you get essentially nothing. You get a boring digital statement once a quarter showing a number that barely moves. The system conditions you to expect fireworks, but real wealth building is literally just watching concrete dry. This creates a dangerous illusion of failure. You grind through the hardest years when progress feels painfully slow. Every fiber of your being tells you this investing thing is a joke. You are putting in $500 a month, you are missing out on luxury vacations with your friends, and at the end of the year, your account is only up a few $1,000s. You think to yourself, what is the point? So you stop. You stop right before the magic happens. This is where the 843 wealth algorithm comes in. It is not just a list of numbers. It is the hidden mathematical timeline of compound growth. It is the secret blueprint that separates the people who retire with absolute dignity from the people scanning receipts at a big box store when they're 75 years old. And you need to understand exactly how it works. Let us break down the math using a realistic, conservative 10% annual return. No get-rich-quick nonsense, just standard historical market behavior. First comes the 8. This is years 1 through 8. This is the foundation phase. During this phase, you're doing 90% of the work and the market is doing maybe 10%. You're in what finance nerds call a contribution-dominated mode. That sounds complicated, but simply put, it means your portfolio is only growing because you keep shoveling your own money into it. If you put in $12,000 a year and the market gives you a decent return, your balance goes up by maybe $13,000. It is invisible, it is boring, and it is absolutely essential. You are building the base. Every single dollar of progress requires your direct physical effort.
If you invest $1,000 a month at a 10% return, by year 8, you finally hit your first major milestone. You cross roughly $137,000. It took you 8 brutal years of sacrifice to get there. It feels like a lifetime, but you just finished digging the hole. Next comes the 4. Years 9 through 12. This is the tipping point. Starting from that $137,000 base, how long do you think it takes to duplicate that success and add another massive chunk of wealth? Another 8 years? Absolutely not. It takes 4. In just 4 short years, your account achieves the exact same growth that previously took you 8. This is the crossover. You have now entered return-dominated mode. That sounds complicated, but simply put, it means the interest your money is earning is now doing more work than the money you are actually contributing. The skyscraper is building itself. You are still working, but the heavy machinery has taken over the heavy lifting. Your money has effectively gotten a full-time job. And then comes the 3, years 13 through 15, the exponential takeoff. From there, how long does it take to add the next massive chunk of wealth? Just 3 years. Look at the data for individuals who have been saving continuously for 15+ years right now. Their average balances are soaring past $500,000. Do you see the pattern? 8, 4, 3. 8 years to build the foundation, 4 years to duplicate it, 3 years to do it again, and then the doublings come faster and faster until you are undeniably wealthy. But here is the tragedy. According to the numbers, about 30% of people stop contributing entirely for at least 1 year during their career. When do they do it? Almost always in the first 10 years. Precisely during the contribution-dominated phase when progress feels discouraging. They quit right when they hit bedrock. They endure the maximum amount of pain for the minimum amount of reward, and then they just walk away. Let us consider a specific scenario of what giving up prematurely actually costs you. Imagine you decide to invest $800 every single month for just 7 years. You grind it out, build up roughly $91,000, and then you throw your hands up. You halt the deposits but leave the portfolio alone to simmer. Fast forward 20 years at that 10% growth, and your $91,000 has quietly blossomed into about $615,000. That sounds fantastic, but what if you just clenched your teeth for 12 more months? By pushing through to that pivotal year 8, contributing just $9,600 more out of your own pocket, your base becomes roughly $110,000. 20 years later, that slightly larger base explodes into nearly $740,000. That single additional year of stubbornness generated over $125,000 in surplus wealth. It is an astronomical return on a brief moment of perseverance. Bailing out at year 7 is the financial equivalent of abandoning a gold mine 2 inches from the mother lode. Now, you might be highly cynical in thinking, what if the market does not perform at 10%?
What if the economy tanks? That is a fair question. Let us look at how the algorithm shifts at different return rates. If you only get 8% annual returns, the pattern becomes closer to 10-6-4. 10 years to build the base, 6 years to double it, 4 years to add the next chunk. The pattern stretches, but the fundamental math does not change. Compound growth is still exponential regardless of the rate. There is still a long, grinding phase followed by an explosive acceleration. And do not think this only applies to the Wall Street elite making massive 6-figure salaries. Your contribution amount does not change the pattern at all. It only changes the scale. If you invest $500 a month instead of $1,000, you still hit the 843 milestones. You just hit it at half the dollar amounts. The math is universal. It is an unbending law of nature. The frustration you feel in year 4 is exactly the same frustration a millionaire felt in their year 4. The only difference is the millionaire did not stop contributing. So how do you actually survive the grueling timeline of the 843 wealth algorithm? How do you trick your instant gratification monkey brain into staying the course so you can actually reap the rewards? Action step number 1. Automate the boredom.
If you do not look at the account, you cannot get bored of it. You need to make it incredibly inconvenient to stop your contributions. Take the decision entirely out of your own hands. Set it up so the money leaves your paycheck before it ever hits your checking account. Do not rely on willpower to invest at the end of the month, because willpower always loses to a shiny new distraction. Automate it, hide the password, and let the math work in the background. Action step number 2. Master the psychology of your future self. Right now, you are probably operating in what psychologists call the gap.
You are measuring your current bank account against an ideal future where you are already rich, and because you are not there yet, you feel like a total failure. You need to switch to the gain. Start measuring backward. Look at where you started at year 0 and celebrate the foundation you were building. Brain scans actually show that humans view their future selves as total strangers. When you were tempted to pull cash out of your investments for a luxury car because you quote-unquote deserve it, you are literally robbing a 65-year-old version of yourself. You were forcing that older version of you to work a stressful job just so you can have leather seats today. Stop confusing lifestyle inflation with genuine financial emergencies. A medical bill is an emergency. A brand new SUV because your neighbor just got one is not an emergency. Every single time you redirect money away from your investments during the foundation phase, you are resetting the clock on your 8 years. You are filling your freshly dug foundation back in with dirt. Action step number 3. Leverage the catch-up. If you've been grinding, or even if you are just getting a late start, the government actually wants to reward you. Under the Secure Act, starting in 2025, if you are between the ages of 60 and 63, you are allowed a super catch-up contribution of over $11,000. That is entirely on top of your standard limits. It is the ultimate reward for those who stay the course, allowing you to shovel massive amounts of tax-advantaged cash into the project right as the skyscraper is rising the absolute fastest. Use every legal tax loophole they give you. Here is the secret nobody ever tells you about the 843 wealth algorithm. The most important thing that changes is not your portfolio balance. It is your psychology. When you are in those first 8 years, you feel like a saver. Every single dollar in that account represents a sacrifice. It represents a dinner you did not eat out, a trip you did not take, a pair of shoes you did not buy.
The portfolio is just a monument to what you did not spend. But when you hit the 4 and the 3, when you shift into return-dominated mode, something fundamental rewires in your brain. You stop feeling like a saver, and you start feeling like an owner. The portfolio is no longer just accumulated sacrifice. It is a productive asset that generates value completely independent of your labor. You wake up on a random Tuesday, you check your account, and you realize your portfolio made more money while you slept than you would have earned working an 8-hour shift at your job. That psychological shift changes absolutely everything. Your financial stress decreases because you are no longer solely responsible for your family's survival. Your money is officially sharing the burden. Your relationship with your boss changes because your biweekly paycheck is no longer the only thing standing between you and financial ruin. Your assets provide a massive cushion. Your ability to take risks, to start a business, to negotiate a raise completely transforms because you have a buffer. This is what true financial freedom feels like. It is not about hitting some arbitrary million-dollar number. It is about hitting the point where your wealth is self-sustaining, where the building is generating rent on its own. And the only way to get there is through those first 8 years. There is no shortcut. There is no day trading hack. There is no secret crypto pre-sale. You just have to grind through the foundation, trusting that the math is working, even when the results do not feel proportional to your effort. Let me put the absolute nail in the coffin on this concept. Let us look at the cost of arrogance versus the power of patience by comparing 2 entirely different financial paths, the architect and the firefighter. The steady architect begins at age 25, investing a modest $750 a month at a 10% return, and just lets the 843 wealth algorithm do its thing until age 65. The firefighter, a high-earning manager, decides their 20s and 30s are for living large, completely ignoring the market until age 45. Panic sets in, so the firefighter tries to extinguish the flames of a delayed retirement by aggressively shoveling $2,500 a month into their accounts from 45 to 65. In total, the firefighter sacrifices $600,000 of their own income. The architect only put in $360,000. Who crosses the finish line ahead? The architect does not just win, they completely redefine the game. The architect sits on a mountain of roughly $4.7 million, while the firefighter, despite a massive, heroic rescue effort, barely crosses the $1.9 million mark. The architect invested drastically less of their own cash, but ended up vastly wealthier. Why? Because the architect triggered the blueprint early. By 33, they finished the 8-year foundation phase. By 37, they duplicated it. By the time they hit retirement age, they had spent over 3 decades swimming in return-dominated territory. The firefighter did not even finish digging their foundation until they were in their 50s. They simply ran out of clock. No amount of late-stage, desperate savings can buy back those missing explosive doubling cycles. The math is unapologetically brutal. Stop checking your balance looking for a miracle. Check your contribution rate looking for consistency. The math of compound interest does not care about your patience, it does not care about your feelings, and it certainly does not care if you think the modern economy is unfair, but it will reward your persistence. Building wealth is not an event, it is an endurance sport. The entire system is built to shake you off the project during those painfully slow first 8 years. When you understand that the flat line you are staring at is not failure, but the necessary blueprint for exponential growth, it completely changes how you interact with your money.
You stop looking for shortcuts and start trusting the absolute certainty of the math. Here is what you need to do today. If you are in years 1 through 8 right now, pull up a compound interest calculator tonight and find your exact crossover point. Find the specific year your projected returns will finally exceed your out-of-pocket contributions. Write that year down. Tape it to your bathroom mirror. Make it your absolute singular focus. Every single month you push through the boredom in that quicksand, you are cementing the base for a financial fortress that will eventually out-earn you. If you have not started yet, understand that every year you wait is an explosive doubling cycle at the very end of your life that you'll never get back. Even $100 a month gets the shovels moving. Start the clock, survive the foundation, and whatever you do, do not quit.